Carl and Liam here from Brains and Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short. It's getting Goosebumps as well to the 5th episode of season 3 of the Goosebumps TV series, and the 49th episode overall, premiering on September 27th, 1997. This also was, like a previous episode, taken from the Tales to Give You Goosebumps short story series, and which makes complete sense, seeing as it's a rip-off of stories that have been done elsewhere, including in anthology format. If you've ever seen the Creepshow series, I think it is Creepshow 3 that has basically this same episode, just a bit gorier, nastier, adult.
Also, we mentioned in the previous episode about the possible inspiration for Men in Black.
Yep.
I don't know if you've heard of it at all, but there's an Adam Sandler movie literally called Click,
Yep.
which is about him getting a magical remote where he can use in similar ways that the kid does in this. And there's no way that this did not inspire that. It's literally called the same thing. So that's quite an interesting bit of trivia, I think.
Yeah, I think Click came out in the mid-2000s. I've never seen it. I know it. I know of it. But I've never seen it. Huh?
It's decent, yeah.
Adam Sandler film, man. No, nothing.
One of his better movies. It's actually got some heart in there, actually.
Oh, I've heard all that. But anyway, yeah, focus on this. Directed by John Bell and written by Scott Peters, so some familiar names there. We begin seeing a young teen boy arriving back home excitedly to find a package has arrived. This is Seth, played by Dan Worry Smith, who is instantly recognizable as he also played Skipper in season 2's Attack of the Mutant. What I thought was hilarious as well is that kid is excitedly receiving his new comic book when we first meet him. And here is excited to receive a package. And I was like, God, give him something to work with, guys. Give him some range.
I was actually starting to think at one point in this episode that maybe it was in the same universe, like this is Skipper, but then he has a different name, and maybe Skipper was like a nickname or something, because it just kind of had the same vibe. Obviously, he gives, it's quite similar, like you say, he's given quite a similar performance. He even has a younger sister and stuff, I think, in Attack of the Mutant maybe, and it just kind of reminded me of it, like maybe it was the same thing. That would have been cool, quite a nice tie-in, but.
Well, I think we should start seeing it this way. We just did a previous episode called Don't Go to Sleep, the previous video. That is about alternative realities. What is this if not an alternative reality?
Very true.
But yes, he is accosted by his younger sister, Jamie, played by Tabitha Lupin, who tells him that he's in trouble as Mom told him to stop ordering stuff from that magazine. Again, I was like, you little cow. That's Ginny Swanson from season 2's Bad Hair Day.
You're in trouble.
What for?
Mom told you to quit ordering junk out of that magazine.
Yeah? Well, it's my money. I can do what I want with it.
That's not what Mom says.
Well, I'm sick and tired of Mom and everyone else telling me what to do all the time. Just once I want to do things my own way.
Good at being annoying, that kid. I give her that.
Absolutely. Seth tells Jamie that he's sick of being told what to do before going inside. We then hear the sound of Jamie grasping him up to his mother. And I was like, oh my God, she's playing a brat again. This girl is brilliant. Inside, Seth opens the box to find a universal remote. And you know what I was really disappointed with? How unimpressive this thing looks. It looks like a remote, except that makes some sci-fi noises. I was like, seriously, you couldn't like make a plastic fucking thing with mad colors and different weird buttons and stuff. Like, this is Goosebumps, right?
Yeah, they could have really gone hard with creativity on that one, but they just were pretty lazy. Maybe they ran out of money or something.
Well, what I suspect is they just got a fucking TV remote and messed around with it a little bit.
But the actor was disappointed as well. He's like, oh, I can't wait to see what it looks like. They're like, this is it. And he's like, seriously.
But yeah, Seth uses it to turn his TV on and messes around with his stereo, which was like the most aging stereo ever. You might have even had that stereo when you were younger. And it was just like, oh man, that makes you feel old.
Watching Goosebumps makes me feel old.
Yeah. This broadcast is interrupted though by a message from the company who made the remote, and Seth is told to obey all instructions and warnings surrounding the remote carefully. But Seth doesn't listen to these warnings, obviously, as we wouldn't have much of an episode. Jamie then arrives and starts her tap practice right by the TV. This is fucking so annoying. I have massive sympathy for Seth because I was getting fucking annoyed having to hear that, tapping on the screen.
She knows exactly what she's doing, man.
Because she does do Bratty very well.
Yeah.
She argues with Seth as the doc starts to bark. He continues to turn the volume up on the TV until frustration sets in and he angrily tries to pause the show he is watching, which somehow freezes Jamie and the dog in place.
Just someone's gonna be covered in slime right after this.
Jamie?
Kyle, come on up here
Jamie.
and spin that wheel, baby.
Muggsy?
A pretty decent effect. It actually, weirdly enough, looks better when he gets up to move around them than it does when he's just sitting there.
Yeah, I can't help but wonder how they did the effects, really, because it does look like she is completely frozen in place, unless it's just like a CG image of her, but it looks good, yeah.
Well, I presume it's a still frame put over things because the dog is leaping in the air, and that you have to do, that's impossible. So I presume it's a still frame, and because he circles them, but always like arm's length, that kind of thing.
Yeah, not too close, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like when you see a mirror shot, two actors playing the same role, and like they always keep a certain level of distance between them. He
Don't
is
ruin
of
the
course.
illusion.
Huh?
Don't ruin the illusion.
Yeah, sorry, people. Obviously, Seth is stunned. He then gets another message via the TV by the company telling them that the remote is not a toy. I really don't get this. Here, I just got what is it for then? If it can do this, what is its purpose? Why is it punishable to use? Now, later on, it will try and suggest that it shouldn't be used for evil, but define evil when using a universal remote when it can pause, rewind, or fast forward relife. Where is that? Where's the evil?
True, and also he did just pause his sister like momentarily. It's not like the most evil act in the world, is it? It's pretty like, in terms of what a child can do, it's quite low down there.
I'd also say he did it by accident, and this company seems to be completely aware of his actions as he does them, so they would surely know that, right?
Yeah.
As Seth tries to understand what is going on, he sits back down and uses the remote again to unfreeze them. Now we're in his room, and he starts to see the benefit of the remote and messes with his pet fish's color before declaring that the remote is cool. This guy, man, same problem in Attack of the Mutant. There are times when I'm just like, you fucking suck. And that it's just that line delivery there. This is so cool. I literally got flashes of him doing the stretch thing at the end of Attack of the Mutant. I was just like, oh, I hated that bit.
Maybe a little less. This is amazing. Cool.
Will you skip her alone, man? You skip it to me, damn it. I don't care what his name in this episode is.
Outside, he turns the volume up and down on a man mowing his lawn. He then uses the rewind and fast forward buttons on a newspaper delivery boy. Then followed by the eject button, which launches the newspaper in the air. Look, don't try to understand the rules of this remote. He just generalizes and points it in the direction of a man because you're like, well, if whatever he points at, it works. But remotes have sensors to cover a large area. So if he points it in a general direction, everyone in that area will be affected, but only ever the one person is. How does an eject button make the newspaper leap into the air into his hand? Like, you just don't overthink it, right?
Gotta try not to.
He's then called inside by his mother as he's a phone call. And it's the company again warning him about using the remote properly and in moderation. That part of these makes sense. Moderation makes sense. Like, don't overuse it. But Seth pays very little attention to the constant warning. And the next day he's talking to his friend, Kevin, Trevor, Ralph at school, who naturally doesn't believe him. What?
What a fool.
Seth then points at a bully named Richard who is doing bully stuff, because that's what Goosebumps, it's just bully stuff, Goosebumps stuff. But once again, if you can believe it, it is a returning actor. This is Matthew Lemche, who played David in season 2's Calling All Creeps.
Oh, all right. Yeah, no, I can place it now. You say it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And he has a bit of a tear here, as Seth then uses the remote to transform Richard into different types of TV presenters. And it is very well done, with Matthew Lemche having to wear completely different outfits, put on sillier voices. Probably the best part of it, and credit to Lemche, who really shows range here, I think.
Yeah, credit to him, man. Did a good job.
What do you think you're gonna do with that?
What am I gonna do? Check this out.
Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't answer that in the form of a question. Mothers who suck their thumbs and the children who love them. That's up next on today's show. Oh, hello, friend. Didn't see you come in. Can you say Holman is a bully?
Holman is a bully?
I knew that you could.
Although, weirdly, everybody thinks this is hilarious rather than utterly fucking terrifying.
True.
That night, Seth is woken by his alarm, which then starts to read off some rules about the remote, which Seth then turns off. So if you didn't realize like the company was magical before, the fact that they can apparently come through his alarm as well, there you go.
Now you know.
Then his computer starts to beep as he has a new email. It's a warning about using the remote for good. Oh my God. You talked in a previous episode about the most unbelievable thing you had ever seen.
Yeah.
This computer and this email is the most what the fuck. Even for 97, that never existed. That looks absurdly stupid and fake. The next day at school, it's pop quiz time. Kevin is dismayed, but Seth uses the remote to freeze the class so he can get all the pop quiz answers. What a dick. What an evil piece of shit. I hope he burns in hell.
Despicable.
Kevin is not impressed, suggesting that Seth is out of control. And I was like, calm down, Kevin. Fucking hell, it's a pop quiz. Didn't use it to steal money or something.
Gone too far.
Yeah. That night, Seth is woken by the dog barking outside, and when he looks at the window, he sees he got a late night delivery. This one is another warning, but this time it's a bit more intense, as it warns him that there will be consequences if he continues to misuse the remote. The next day, he's trying to watch TV as Jamie is doing a fucking tap routine again.
She's got to practice.
Yeah, what's really annoyed me about it as well is fuck the parents who are constantly going, let her practice. No, tell her to go practice somewhere else, not in front of the TV. Like, be fucking fair, right?
Of course, yeah.
She tries to take the remote from him to change the channel, and they struggle with it before it gets knocked against the wall. So you knew this was coming. It's coming now.
Hey, patience, my friend, patience.
Hey, put that down.
I want to watch something else.
Jamie, put it down. Are you crazy?
Mom, Seth's hogging again.
Seth is worried at his damage, but before anything can happen, Jamie calls her parents, their parents, who then gang up on him, insisting that he give her a remote. I'm like, man, this is bad. This is a bad parenting run we've got at the moment. We really do.
Yeah. One after another set of god-awful parents in Goosebumps.
Absolutely.
A tier list of the worst parents in Goosebumps.
I think we talked about that before, going back and pulling out all the parents and ranking them upon how good they were, and how we will do that. Every episode we had parents in them. Were they good parents or were they bad parents? And rank them in between that.
I'm determined to find a set of good parents in Goosebumps. There's got to be some. There has to be.
I'll have to think. We'll have to think back in that one. But they're played by Gary Pearson and Catherine Bruce. But Seth has had enough, so freezes them using the remote. So we're back to that. But problems arise. When he tries to unfreeze them, the remote doesn't work. He shakes the remote and it sounds like something is broken inside. We've all been there. That little rattly thing inside your Xbox controller. Sad days.
Try hitting the batteries, man. That always works.
Well, that's literally what ends up happening. Shortly after, he's dragged Kevin over to help him, and he suggests they contact the company that sold it to them. They call but get no answer before they then get a call back. It's a recorded message that gives them an address that leads the boys to a disused industrial yard and one that seems to be deserted. However, they do find a damaged sign that indicates the company was there once. This is all done in like the space of about a minute and a half. And it's fucking frustrating because it really should. I thought we were going to do something interesting here because the industrial yard looks great. And the idea that the company doesn't exist there was amazing. I loved how it looked. And I thought, okay, this would be kind of cool. Maybe he goes inside and finds it's fully functional and it's all like whatever it might be. Or it takes him to a different dimension where they operate from, all this stuff.
Yeah, finds like a broken down factory that makes the remotes and he like restarts it himself. And prints out like loads of remotes and starts to fucking like hand them out to people and shit, and it causes chaos within the world, you know? Something simple.
But nothing. It goes to nothing. It felt like the most fillery shit ever.
That must have been more frustrating. They must have driven out there, filmed this like really short scene. Like they must have been told, we only got like 2 minutes on this set, guys. How much it costs, I don't know. Gotta get out of here quick.
Armchair electronics.
See, at nightfall, Seth and Kevin are at the former's house with the family still frozen. Seth decides he has to do something, so goes to the basement to try and fix the remote himself. He opens up the remote and immediately the phone starts to ring. The voice says that he shouldn't try to fix it himself and to go to an authorized dealer before the caller hangs up. And Seth's kind of like, I fucking went to the authorized dealer. No one was there, so I'm going to try and fix it. And he finds a loose part, puts it back in place, which causes a jolt of electricity. And again, I thought that was going to be an important thing. Nope, irrelevant. Hoping that it's fixed, they go back upstairs and try it on a family, but it doesn't work at first. And then we get the classic. Little bit of a shake, little bit of a bang in the hand, and it's working fine. The family are unfrozen, and Seth hugs them all because he's happy to see them.
Why does that work though?
Privately, Kevin and Seth decide to get rid of the remote in the trash. They then go their separate ways, but Seth has a change of heart and takes the remote back without Kevin knowing. Heel turn coming. Massive heel turn.
Big turn, man.
The next day at school, Seth is seen putting a remote in his locker by Kevin. Kevin is not impressed. He gives him a proper old judgy, like arms folded, leaning against the locker, slow shake of the head.
Oh, hey, Kev.
Thought we threw that thing away last night.
You did?
And what are you doing with it?
Well, I tried to get rid of it, but it kept on magically appearing in my room.
You're lying, Seth.
He declares that the remote has changed him and reminds him what he did to his family. And it's kind of like, it's been like a day he had this remote. You're maybe doing hyperbole by saying, it's changed you, man. No, I don't even recognize you anymore.
Going down the One Ring from Lord of the Rings route now. So he's yeah.
Banging. I love that. I didn't think of that. Because yes, Seth is a massive dick suddenly. And they struggle. They fight over the remote before Seth uses it to knock Kevin into the lockers. Now, it's done really well. Briefly, you can kind of see where it's an adult that hits the locker, a stuntman. But it was done very well. There was a moment where I was like, shut up, that they just slammed that kid into those lockers. Oh, oh no, they didn't.
No kids were harmed in the filming of this episode.
Seth.
Try that again. You'll really be sorry.
And then like Seth kind of rolls and walks away like a badass. Like he's a proper like, yeah, I'm the man.
He showed him.
Yeah. But he's stopped by a payphone ringing. And the voice, it's the company, tells him that this is his last warning. But Seth's just like, whatever, bro. I got this remote. Hangs it up. But Kevin, now bloodthirsty, just jumps on Seth's back. I mean, we have a proper struggle. There's no like just pulling and stuff. This is them physically roughing each other up.
And then he takes the remote, beats Kevin to death with it, all bloodied. And it just ends with like a close shot on his face. Cut to credits, man.
Amazing. But Seth does manage to shake him off and tries to use the remote, but it stopped working. Oh no. He bangs it a bit, pushes a button, and it's one of those really ominous ones where he's like, I'm going to get you. Pushes it, and then is transported into a very dark room of what appears to be nothing. Complete darkness, but with a spotlight where he's standing. He tries to use the remote, but now the batteries are low. He's then greeted by the company. The man appeared in a lot of the messages and on the TV, who gives him a parting message before disappearing. And Seth is just trapped in this void, and that's how it ends. And I was like, okay, that's a decent certain comeuppance.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Had a few episodes in a row now where they have had endings that have kind of been abrupt and kind of been like, I don't know, you decide what happens next. A little bit. Yeah.
But overall, yeah, I mean, it's an all right ending. It didn't really do much for me. Again, I've got to call back something stupid. Batteries low do not mean batteries out. Batteries low just means put new batteries in soon, not batteries needed now. Just how hard, considering they do a screen with the word low in it, how hard it would be to change that to the word depleted.
Very true. Yeah, it's hard to know really what to say about this episode. I don't think it's that memorable. Not enough happens for me. It's another one of those Goosebump concepts where it's like you've got this grand idea, this remote that can do all sorts of shit, and you just do the most blandest thing possible. Of course, it's in the hands of a kid, and kids, they think of the most boring ways to use these things. If you have like the monkey's paw, or the typewriter that can type anything into existence, a remote that can pause anything, you can do anything with it, maybe, and he uses it to get the pop quiz answers on a test. You know, I know maybe that's what a kid would think of, but you shouldn't don't bother with these grand ideas if you're not going to bother to do anything grand with it. Like you said, when he points it and it only does the one little thing, don't bother if you're going to keep it so small scale. Yeah.
The fact that the biggest factor for me was the fact that the big scenario in this is, of course, the freezing of the family. Yet that just repeating what we'd already done. We did a freeze. There are other buttons, other things they could have done to make this more interesting. Let's say instead of freezing them, he sped them up so they were moving constantly fast, or slow motion. So like that was the problem, and it would have just been something different. Instead, it was just like, oh, they're froze again. It's like, we already did frozen. Could we not have done something different?
You can just tell they don't have the budget, don't have the resources to pull off what they maybe wanted to. I don't know. When it's in the book, I'm sure they had things probably bigger in there because it's written down. Whereas here, they're restricted a bit, which is a shame. I'm sure there's obviously some moral in there about not abusing power or something. I felt. I thought the acting was fine, but it's filled with the usual Goosebump tropes that are just getting tiresome now. Like, R.L. Stone really hates siblings.
Yeah.
Dan hates them, man. Yeah. But it did make me wish that I had one of these remotes growing up. So maybe that's the idea, I guess, as a kid watching it. It's the whole fantasy of what if I had a remote, I could pause my annoying sister and stuff like that, Yeah.
Yeah. Or just sellotape all your remotes together and call it the Megatron, That will totally suffice. The only thing I'm going to add is that, like, I'm going to show my age, but I ended up thinking, because I was bored a lot of the time watching this, of funnier things that could be done related to the TV remote of the time. And I might be too late for this, but I thought it'd be hilarious if we'd pushed the CFAX button instead. And they just ended up spouting out constant nonsense that appeared on CFAX in the day. If you don't know what CFAX is, Google it. It means I'm nearly 40.
Indeed. But yeah, it's not a very memorable episode on the hard end. I think it's another one of those check the notes type episodes, and when it comes to racing it and putting in the tier list.
Agreed. It is click. Do you enjoy it more than we do? Do you think it's quite fun, or do you sit on the side with us that it's just unmemorable, bit bland, a bit boring, but nothing to get too upset about? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. games, horror, and heavy metal. What else is life for?